Hello, I'm Sam Dodds and welcome to the Football Follow-Through podcast. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Premier League Gameweek 22 matches, where there were 11 games being played. The first game of this game week was on Friday, and it was a big rivalry game between Brighton and Crystal Palace. This game was being played in Brighton at the Amex Stadium, and Brighton came into this game in decent form. Palace, on the other hand, were coming into this game in mixed form. Brighton lined up with a 4-3-1-2 formation, with Veltman at right back, Cucurella at left back, with two centre-halves of Webster and Byrne. They were playing three in midfield, with Lallana, Groh and Madère, with McAllister just in front, playing in an attacking midfield position, just behind the two forwards of Neil Maupay and Leandro Trossard. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, started with a 4-3-3 formation, with Jack Butland in goal, Ward at right back, Mitchell at left back, Anderson and Gueye at centre half, and in midfield, Hughes, Jeffrey Schlupp and the in-form Conor Gallagher. The front three was Edouard as the striker, Eze on the left wing and Elise on the right wing. However, the two wingers did swap around during this game. The game started with Brighton on the front foot, and a clip ball forward by them resulted in an error by Joel Ward, who headed the ball straight into the path of Cucurella as he tried passing it to his teammate with his head, and he ran in through, playing the ball through to Leandro Trossard, who had a chance running through one-on-one. He took the shot, however it was well saved by Butland. Brighton were playing some lovely football this half, and they had a corner. From a corner, Will Hughes was wrestling with Joel Veltman and had his hand round his neck. However, the referee didn't notice anything, and play continued. The game was paused, however, and VAR asked the referee to go to his monitor. The referee, Robert Jones, was asked to go to his monitor, and he changed his on-field decision to a penalty for Brighton. Pascal Grob stepped up to take the penalty, and with a short run-up, he hit an awful penalty, straight up the middle to the side slightly, and it was a woeful penalty, easily saved by Butland. The Palace fans were going crazy behind the goal. As a flare was thrown onto the pitch, Butland disposed of it, throwing it behind his goal, and Brighton took the resulting corner. The corner was whipped in by Pascal Groh, and Dan Byrne managed to get his head onto the ball, and it fell into the path of Neil Maupay, who kicked the ball as Jack Butland tried grasping the ball. However, Neil Maupay poked the ball into the net out of his hands, and the goal was given by the referee. 1-0 to Brighton, or so we thought. Again, Robert Jones was asked to go to his monitor, and he changed his decision again. VAR showed that Butland did have two hands on the ball, and that's why the goal was ruled out. A lucky escape for Palace. After half-time, Brighton continued their dominance, and it was absolutely bemusing how they weren't winning this game. Another chance for Brighton after half-time led to Madère hitting the bar. Pascal Gross made a nice run down the right, who whipped in a cross, and Madère managed to make a late run into the box, and on the half volley clipped his shot onto the crossbar. Brighton were really playing the better football, and Palace were really hanging on at this point. They could have been 1 or 2 down at least. However, Brighton had to change their formation as Adam Lallana picked up yet another injury, and Tariq Lamptey came on for him. Brighton moved to a 5 at the back, with Veltman moving from right back to right centre back, Lamptey going to right wing back, and Cucurella moving into a slightly more advanced role of a left wing back as opposed to a left back. Ironically though, Palace were the first team to grab the goal in this affair, completely against the run of play. A rare attack resulted in Will Hughes threading a nice pass to Joel Ward, who'd made a run onto the left-hand side, and he flashed across into the box to Schlupp, who picked up the ball in the box and drove past the defence to the byline, and he swivelled and crossed the ball into the box, where Conor Gallagher took one touch with his right foot and on the half volley hit it with his stronger right foot again into the far corner. What a finish. 1-0 for Palace. How on earth they were winning this game, God only knows. But the Palace fans didn't care one bit. In disbelief, Graham Potter made a double change in the 73rd minute, a few minutes after the Palace goal, with Danny Welbeck and Solly March coming on for Pascal Gross and Veltman coming off. Brighton pushed for an equaliser and Palace were on the ropes. And Cucurella, who'd had a very good game, picked up the ball outside the edge of the box and played a lovely ball down the left channel where Mopé had made a nice run, and he broke into the box and put a dangerous low cross into the 6-yard box, where Anderson, who'd had a great game in defence, put the ball into his own net for 1-1. The Amex erupted and Brighton were going to push on for a winner for the final 5 minutes. But a good piece of play by Neil Mopé, 1-1. Brighton were now pushing for a winner, and Solly March ran down the right wing and put in a good cross for the sub Welbeck to get onto it. He glanced his head at it and it just went narrowly over the bar, but a reasonable half chance for Brighton, and unfortunately that was it for them. Although they probably deserved the win, the lack of cutting edge in the final third cost them, and the game ended 1-1. So the man of the match for this game, in my opinion, is Jack Butland. He put in a phenomenal performance for Palace in goal, and at times it was a bit of a one-man show in defence, although Anderson was also good for them, but he saved Palace on numerous occasions with the penalty and a couple other saves. Overall though, I have to say, in this game Brighton did look very good, and it looks like Graham Potter's really found some consistency with his team, and if they could get the cutting edge in the final third, they could move up the table even further. On to the Saturday fixtures, and the first game of the day was a game with title race implications, with Manchester City hosting Chelsea at 12:30. Manchester City came into this game in phenomenal form, having won the last 11 league games in a row. Chelsea, on the other hand, came into this game in slightly more mixed form, having drawn quite a few games. Manchester City started with a lineup of Ederson in goal, Kyle Walker at right back, Cancelo at left back, and the two centre-halves of Laporte and Stones, with Diaz being rested on the bench. Defensive midfield of Rodri, two central midfielders just in front of Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva, and a front three of Jack Grealish on the left wing, on the right wing Raheem Sterling, and Phil Foden playing as that false nine. Chelsea lined up with Kepa Arrizabalaga in goal, a back three of Thiago Silva, Malang Sarr and Rudiger, right wing back of Azpilicueta, left wing back of Marcus Alonso, two central midfielders of Mateo Kovacic and N'Golo Kante, and a front three of Pulisic, Lukaku and Hakim Ziyech. Chelsea knew that if they wanted to stay in the title race, this was the game they had to win. If Manchester City won, they could extend their lead to 13 points. The first chance of the game came to Manchester City from a corner, which was taken short by Kevin De Bruyne to Sterling, who cut inside and put in a cross, where Stones leapt at the far post, only to head into the arms of Kepa. Midway through the first half, Mateo Kovacic received the ball near his own box, and he played a pass backwards towards the defence. However, it was intercepted by De Bruyne, and the ball fell to Jack Grealish, who ran through one-on-one. However, Kepa came rushing out, and Grealish couldn't finish, but it was a great chance, and Grealish really should have taken the chance to make it 1-0 to City. Before the half-time whistle was blown, De Bruyne had a half chance after Grealish had done some good work down the left wing and cut the ball back to De Bruyne, who took a touch but blazed over just inside the area to the left-hand side of the box, and it just went over the bar by a decent margin, but it was a half chance for City. Into the second half, and Chelsea produced the first good chance of the game for them, really, and after Cancelo gave the ball away and Mateo Kovacic pounced on it and played a lovely through ball for Romelu Lukaku, who managed to run in behind Laporte and Stones and faced Ederson one-on-one. Could he score? Well, no, it was saved by Ederson. It was a poor effort from Lukaku and well read by Ederson. Still 0-0. And the rebound fell to Hakim Ziyech, who, from a way out, blazed over the bar. City continued in the second half to be the dominant side, and had a free kick from about 25 yards out, and De Bruyne hit it well into the far corner. However, it was saved by Kepa. Comfortable for Kepa, but a good effort nonetheless by De Bruyne. Sterling had a decent game so far and had been making runs in behind and dribbling well, and he created a chance for himself after some good work with Phil Foden, and he ran down the right wing and from a narrow angle hit a good shot, but it was just wide. As the second half wore on, City continued to control the game, limiting Chelsea to very few chances and creating more themselves. And in the 70th minute, they broke the deadlock. João Cancelo played a good ball into De Bruyne into the midfield area, and he cut inside and killed a beautiful shot round the defender that was Thiago Silva into the far corner. Kepa dived, but he couldn't get near it. 1-0 for City. The Etihad erupted. Finally, City's dominance had managed to get them on the score sheet and they were winning the game 1-0. Chelsea had made subs this second half and had taken off Ziyech and Pulisic and brought on Timo Werner and Mason Mount, along with Callum Hudson-Odoi for Marcus Alonso coming off. So they'd gone attacking. However, they couldn't really get back into this game at all, and they never really looked like scoring. And City managed to see out the game comfortably and had won 1-0. They'd gone 13 points clear of Chelsea and had won their 12th game in a row. So, the man of the match for this game. I think the match winner, Kevin De Bruyne, deserves this one as he played a brilliant game, and that moment of magic was what managed to be the difference. And he's now coming into form again and is really showing his qualities. Huge game this was. City got the win and they look formidable, and it's going to take a great effort from Liverpool to overthrow them for the title, and this leaves Chelsea's ambitions of winning a title left in tatters. So on to the 3 PM kickoffs, where there are a few fixtures being played, starting with Southampton versus Wolves. Southampton had been in reasonable form of late and were fairly well clear of the relegation zone, whereas Wolves were also in decent form, having beaten Man United fairly recently, and they were hunting for European football. Wolves lined up with the usual 5-2-3 formation, with the three centre-backs of Connor Cody, Kilman, and making his debut, Totai. At right wing-back was Nelson Semedo, and at left wing-back was Ait Nouri. The two central midfielders playing fairly deep were Dendoncker and the veteran João Moutinho. The front three was Raul Jimenez as the striker, with the wingers of Pedence and Trincao. Jose Sarr continued in goal for Wolves and hoped to continue his fantastic form this season. Southampton knew they were going to be in for a tough game, especially offensively, as Wolves have the second best defence in the league, having only conceded 14 goals this season going into this game, second best after Manchester City. Southampton lined up with Fraser Foster in goal, a back three of Bednarek, Lianco and Salisu, three central midfielders of Romeo, Ward-Prowse and Diallo. Left midfield was Paro, and at right midfield / wing was Nathan Tella. Up front was the informed Broja and Nathan Redmond. The game started in a frenetic fashion, and Wolves won the ball high up the pitch, with Trincao managing to take the ball off Nathan Tella, and Pedence latched onto the ball and he ran at the defence and played a nice ball into Jimenez in the box, who took a shot which was deflected and fell into the path of Ait Nouri, who'd bombed on from left wing back, and he got to the ball first. However, he was taken out by Jan Bednarek and it looked a clear penalty. However, on-field decision was no penalty. VAR did intervene, however, and after Going to the monitor, the referee decided to change his decision and awarded a penalty for Wolves. Raul Jimenez stepped up to take the penalty, and he looked fairly calm and ran up to the ball slowly and rolled the ball calmly into the corner, with Fraser Forster going the opposite way. 1-0 for Wolves. The first half wore on. Southampton grew into the game well and created an opening for themselves with a good piece of play by Nathan Redmond down the right, playing the ball into Romeo into the box, who put in a nice cross, and Salasy, who'd got it from centre-back, got his head on it, and it was well saved by Jose Sarr. It was a good chance for Southampton to make it 1-0, but what a save by Sarr. Southampton continued to play well, without creating anything massively clear-cut before half-time, and it was 1-0 going into the interval. Into the second half, Wolves had a free kick in the left-wing position, and Aït-Nouri whipped in a high-looping free kick, and Fraser Forster came rushing out to try and get it. However, he stopped halfway and retreated in no man's land, and Kilman rose for the header, and he looped it over the head of Forster towards the far post, and it hit the post. But it came out to Conor Cody following in, who headed it, and it went over the line despite it hitting Jimenez, who was also standing over the line. 2-0 for Wolves. Southampton didn't give up on this game, however, and won a free kick 30 yards out, and James Ward-Prowse stepped up to the ball, and as we know, he's a phenomenal free kick taker, having scored many free kicks this season already. However, it looked too far out to produce his usual whipping free kick. So he stood slightly more to the right of the ball than he would, and he hit a complete knuckleball, and it swerved, completely confusing Jose Sarr, who'd already moved the other way, and the ball swerved with power into the far corner. Absolutely phenomenal goal, one of the goals of the season. What a free kick by Ward-Prowse, what a free kick taker he is, and Southampton were back in the game. 2-1. Southampton pushed for the equaliser, and Bednarek, who'd found himself in a wing-back position, crossed the ball in to the far post where Perro had made a run, and his header crashed against the bar. Should have been 2-2. Into the final 2 minutes of the game, and Wolves hit Southampton on the counter as Southampton were opening up trying to get the equaliser, and Fabio Silva ran into the box and took a shot with the outside of his right foot, which was well saved by Fraser Forster, and the rebound, however, fell to Adama Traore, and he blazed the shot over the bar. Should have been 3-1. As Southampton continued to push, they left gaps in behind, and Aït-Nouri received the ball in the left wing-back position and played a lovely curling pass beyond the defence with Adama Traore's pace, as Adama had come on as a sub, and he sprinted in behind and went one-on-one with Fraser Forster, having run inside from the left wing, and as Forster came out, there was a gap for Adama Traore to hit past him, and it went into the corner. 3-1 for Wolves. The 3 points were sewn up for Wolves, and this was slightly harsh on Southampton, but Wolves had been more clinical. The full-time whistle blew, and the game ended. Wolves 3, Southampton 1. Another 3 p.m. kickoff was a relegation 6-pointer at St James's Park between Newcastle and Watford. Newcastle lined up with Dubravka in goal, a back four of Trippier at right back, Dummett at left back, and 2 centre-halves of Jamal Lascelles and Fabian Schär. 3 central midfielders with Shelvey as the deepest one, Joe Linton in his new position of central midfield with Longstaff as well, Sean Longstaff, and a front three of Fraser on the right wing, St Maximin on the left wing, and the new signing Chris Wood as the striker. Watford lined up with 4-3-3 formation, with Foster in goal, Ngakia at right back, Kamara at left back, Samir and Cathcart at centre half, Kayombe at central defensive midfield, Sissoko and Kuchka in central midfield in front, and a front three of Emmanuel Dennis, Josh King and João Pedro. Newcastle started on the front foot, and Fraser put in a cross, which was deflected and fell to Joe Linton, who was in the box, and he guided the ball on the volley with the outside of his left foot onto the crossbar. It was a great chance for Newcastle to take the lead. As the half wore on, Watford had a half chance of their own after St Maximin gave the ball away in his own half, and João Pedro drove at the defence and released King, who fired wide from 10 yards out. Before half-time, Newcastle produced a chance of their own with a well-worked short corner, leading to Fraser whipping the ball into the box to the far post where Joe Linton had made a nice run. However, he volleyed wide when he really should have scored. Into the second half, Newcastle continued to push, and St. Maximum stole the ball from Ngakia, and he cut inside, beating 3 men, drove into the box, and powered the ball into the near post into the back of the net. 1-0 for Newcastle. Newcastle fans were wondering whether this could be the day they finally lift themselves out of the relegation zone, which was what a win would do. However, Watford wouldn't give up and created another chance, with Kayambe threading a defence-splitting pass through to King, who tried dinking the ball past Dubravka, who smothered the ball behind for a corner. Newcastle almost conceded a few minutes later after Lascelles played an awful ball into the middle of the pitch, and Emmanuel Dennis drove at the defence, and Lascelles lunged in to try and make amends for losing the ball. However, Dennis evaded the challenge and released Sissoko, who'd made a run to the right, who inside of the box fired just over, a great chance to equalise for Watford. Finally, in the 87th minute, Watford's pressure resulted in them getting the equaliser. After the 2 substitutes, Hernandez and Femenia played a 1-2, and Femenia was released down the right side and put in a beautiful cross where João Pedro leapt high, putting his head on the line and powered it into the far corner. What an important goal for Watford. 1-1. Overall, this was a huge game, and the result didn't do a great deal for either side. However, I think Watford will be slightly happier having picked up the point. Newcastle, still in the relegation zone, really needed this win. And Newcastle's inability to keep clean sheets this season is going to be their downfall and could well cost them come May, which is why they desperately need a new centre-half this January. Another huge game was taking place at 3 o'clock with Norwich taking on Everton. Norwich desperately needed a win, and they lined up with a 4-4-2 formation, with Krul in goal, Aarons at right back, Brandon Williams at left back, 2 centre-halves of Gibson and Hanley, 2 central midfielders of Sorensen and Melu. Playing at right midfield was Josh Sargent, left midfield was Rashitska, and 2 strikers up front with Adam Ida and Timu Puki. Everton lined up with a 4-4-2 formation as well, with Pickford in goal, 2 centre-halves of Godfrey and Keane, right back of Seamus Coleman, left back of the new signing Mikalenko, 2 central midfielders of Decore and Andre Gomez, 2 wingers / left and right midfielders of Andre Gray and Anthony Gordon, and 2 strikers of Solomon Rondon and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Norwich started the game on the front foot, and after 10 minutes, Sargent put a cross into the box, and Keane prodded the ball into the back of his own net. Norwich had taken the lead 1-0. Norwich could smell blood, and Everton were really on the ropes. And 2 minutes later, Seamus Coleman gave the ball away, and Brandon Williams took the ball in the left back / left mid position and played a good ball into the box for Adam Ida, who'd made a nice run, and he, with a heavy touch, allowed Pickford to almost intercept it. However, he managed to prod the ball past Pickford, and the ball went into the back of the net. Norwich fans didn't know what they were watching. 2-0 Norwich. Everton was shell-shocked, and into the second half, their shambolic performance was only getting worse. Mikalenko played a blind ball back towards Pickford, and Adam Ida pounced, and he tried to play the ball to Pukki for a tap-in, but some good defending by Godfrey intercepted it. Everton brought on Richarlison in the second half, and he clawed Everton back into the game. A corner by Andre Gray was headed away towards the touchline where Mikalenko put in a cross, which was punched unconvincingly by Tim Krul away. However, Richarlison acrobatically produced an overhead kick straight into the back of the net on the volley. What a finish. This is a goal that you really need to watch back. What a goal. And Everton were back in the game. 2-1. Everton started to improve and applied more pressure, and Godfrey pulled the ball back at the byline for Gordon, whose shot was blocked. Norwich were starting to get nervous and were starting to hang on a little bit. However, their defence remained relatively resolute, and just before the final whistle blew, they had a final chance of their own to wrap up the game on the counter-attack. Rashitska broke and drove into the box, curling his shot onto the post, and he dropped to the floor. However, it didn't matter as the referee blew his final whistles, and the Canaries had got only their third victory of the season, a huge win for them and Dean Smith. This game marked Rafa's final nail in the coffin, and he was sacked the next day. Norwich, however, had moved up to 18th, and were now only a point behind 17th place Watford. The evening game at 5:30 on Saturday, the 16th of January, was Aston Villa versus Man United. Aston Villa lined up with a 4-2-3-1 formation, Martinez in goal, back four of Cash, Digne, Konza and Mings, Digne making his debut, Douglas Luiz and Sanson in central defensive midfield, Jacob Ramsey as the central attacking midfielders, two wingers of Buendia and Watkins, and Ings as the main striker. Man United lined up with a 4-2-3-1 formation as well, with De Gea in goal, Dalot and Telles as the fullbacks, Lindelof and Varane at centre-half, Fred and Matic as the defensive midfielders, Bruno Fernandes as the central attacking midfielders, and the two wingers of Greenwood, Elanga and Edison Cavani leading the line. Man United started the brighter, and from a free kick taken short, Bruno Fernandes had a shot from 25 yards out, and it was a simple save for Martinez. However, he'd made an absolute blunder, and the ball went under him and into the back of the net. An absolute howler this was. 1-0 for Man United, with only 6 minutes on the clock. Man United continued to start the game well, and Mason Greenwood fired a shot narrowly wide from outside of the box. Martinez had it covered, but it was a good shot by Greenwood. Man United were playing the better football early on. However, Villa had a chance of their own from a corner that Digne put in, and Buendia's header was comfortably saved by De Gea, but this was the first real chance for Aston Villa. Before half-time, Villa started to grow into the game a little more, and Digne had a shot comfortably saved after both fullbacks combined well, Cash bombing forward, putting in a cross for Digne, who had made a late bombing run from left-back, and his half-volley place shot was comfortable for De Gea. Into the second half, Villa were growing into the game even more, and Ramsey was playing well, and his low shot was saved by De Gea after a neat 1-2 with Buendia. However, Man United doubled their lead in the 67th minute after Morgan Sanson gave the ball away to Fred, who played a nice pass through to Bruno Fernandes, who'd made a run towards the box. He drove into the box and powered his shot, beautiful shot, hitting the underside of the crossbar and bouncing into the net. Beautiful goal, 2-0 for Man United. Gerrard made some changes, and he brought on Coutinho for his debut to try and get Villa back in the game, along with Chukwuemeka. And Coutinho linked up with Chukwuemeka, playing a 1-2, which allowed him to get towards the box and slip the ball to Ramsey, who was inside the box, who then placed his shot into the far corner, getting Villa right back into the game. Lovely piece of play by Villa there, and Coutinho involved. 2-1. 77 minutes on the clock. Villa pushed for an equaliser, and in the 81st minute, Buendia played a beautiful pass through to Ramsey into the box, and Coutinho had made a run to the far post, peeling off the centre-halves who didn't mark him at all. It was poor defending. However, Ramsey managed to play the cross to the far post where Coutinho managed to be free in space and tapped it into the empty net. What an impact by Coutinho. And Villa had managed to claw the game back to 2-2. Phenomenal scenes at Villa Park. 2-2. Villa pushed for a winner, however they could not get this. But they must be happy with being able to get the game back from 2-0 down to get a point. And Coutinho's shown already that maybe he could be a good bit of business for Villa and could help them this season, as he showed off the bench. And he was really man of the match coming on, along with Jacob Ramsey, who had a good game. United will be very frustrated that they couldn't get the 3 points. They did play better this game, however their defensive frailties show no signs of abating, and if they have any aspirations of gaining top 4 this season, they're going to have to tighten up their defence. On to the fixtures on Sunday, the 16th of January. 2 games were being played, and they were both on at 2 p.m, with Liverpool playing Brentford. Liverpool were going to have to play this game without 2 of their star players, as they were unavailable at the African Cup of Nations, with Mo Salah and Sadio Mane unavailable. Liverpool lined up with a 4-3-3 formation, with Alisson in goal, a back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson as the fullbacks, 2 centre-backs of Matip and Virgil van Dijk, then three central midfielders of Fabinho, Curtis Jones and Jordan Henderson, and a front three of Firmino as the false nine striker, Jota on the left wing, and Oxlade-Chamberlain playing as a right wing. Brentford lined up with a 5-3-2 formation, with Fernandes in goal, three centre-backs of Ayer, Pinnock and Pontus Jansson, two wing-backs of Rico Henry and Roželev, three central midfielders of Janelt, Norgard and Baptiste, and the two forwards of Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo. Liverpool started this game the more dominant side, and from a whipped corner Trent Alexander-Arnold found Van Dijk, who had a shot after the ball fell to him, and the Brentford keeper Fernandes saved it brilliantly. This was a very good chance for Liverpool to make it 1-0. Brentford, however, did have a chance of their own in the first half, with Ivan Toney having a shot from 30 yards out that went narrowly wide after Matip gifted him the ball. But before half-time, in the 44th minute, Liverpool scored. Trent Alexander-Arnold put in a very nice corner, and it bounced, but no Brentford player cleared it, and it fell to Fabinho, who headed the ball into the corner of the net. 1-0 for Liverpool. Into the second half, Brentford created a chance of their own and almost equalised after Norgard played a beautiful defence-splitting pass through to Brian Mbeumo, who killed his shot just wide, having been in the box. This was a great chance for Brentford, and they would rue this miss. Jota was then denied from a one-on-one, with Fernandes making a very good save, and this should have been 2-0 for Liverpool, really. However, a few minutes later, they got their second, after Robertson put in a lovely cross, and Oxlade-Chamberlain had made a run to the far post, and with a lovely diving header, put the ball into the back of the net. 2-0 for Liverpool, game over. Brentford then gifted Liverpool a third goal, playing out from the back. Fernandes, the keeper, played an awful ball, and Fabinho pounced and the ball fell to Minamino, who then played a swift 1-2 with Firmino back to him, and he put the ball into the empty net, with Fernandes wondering what had just happened. 3-0 for Liverpool, and that was the 3 points sewn up, and moved Liverpool up to second place, 11 points behind Manchester City with a game in hand. At the London Stadium, West Ham were hosting Leeds. West Ham lined up with a 4-2-3-1 formation, although at times it was a 4-3-3 formation, with Kufal and Cresswell as the fullbacks, Diop and Dawson as the centre-halves, Rice as the central defensive midfielder, with Lanzini and Fornals in front, with a front three of Bowen, Vlasic and Mikel Antonio. Leeds lined up with Meslier in goal, a back four of Dallas and Firpo, Strauch and Ayling. Three in midfield of Koch, Forshaw and Click, and a front three of Rafinha on the right wing, Jack Harrison on the left wing, and Daniel James playing as the lone striker. Leeds picked up two early injuries in this game and had to withdraw Forshaw and Firpo, with youth academy player Lewis Baker coming on in midfield and Hyder coming on at left back. Leeds started well, and Rafinha cut in from the right and laid the ball back to Click, whose shot was saved. However, the rebound fell to Jack Harrison, who on his left foot fired the ball past Fabianski to make it 1-0 for Leeds. 10 minutes played. Leeds were playing well this half, and in the 33rd minute, Leeds were undone yet again this season by a set piece, and the Hammers profited after Cresswell whipped the corner in and Bowen managed to get his head on it, having been unmarked, and he headed it past Fab Meslier to make it 1-0. This is the 6th goal of the season in the Premier League for Jarrod Bowen, who was in good form. However, Leeds responded swiftly themselves from a corner after Rafinha whipped it in, and Ayling got his head on it, which went towards the far post where Harrison was there to take it over the line, touch it over the line with his stomach to touch it over the line. 2-1 Leeds before half-time. After half-time, West Ham grew slightly more into the game. However, Leeds still looked incredibly dangerous on the counter-attack. A ball played up by Rice to Mikel Antonio was held up well by the big man, and he laid it off to Fornals, who down the left cut inside, went past a couple of players into the box, and he fired a beautiful shot, very similar to St. Maximin's goal against Watford. Fired it into the near post, past Meslier to make it 2-2. What a game we had on our hands here. In a back and forth encounter, Leeds just continued to attack, and Only a few minutes later, they made it 3-2. Vlasic gave the ball away and was caught in possession, and Dallas played the ball to Rafinha, who'd had a very good game, who played an amazing ball from one wing to the other to Harrison, who'd made a lovely run, and Fabianski, despite coming rushing out, couldn't stop Harrison, dinking the ball over him to make it 3-2 to Leeds. Leeds continued to push forward even after this, and they looked like they'd wrapped the game up, making it 4-2, when Rafinha had hit a beautiful free kick. However, it was just a tiny bit too high, and it crashed against the crossbar. What a free kick nonetheless. Finally, Leeds had definitely thought that they'd made it 4-2, however, as Rafinha ran down the wing and crossed the ball across, pulled the ball back to Click, who fired it into the goal to make it 4-2, and the Leeds fans were bouncing. However, VAR had a look at this goal and saw the sub Rodrigo was standing in an offside position as Click hit the shot as it was going into the goal. It clipped off Rodrigo before going over the line. So this goal was chalked off. West Ham was still in the game. Late on, West Ham could have snatched a point. They probably didn't deserve a point, but they could have had it nonetheless. Antonio was released down the left from a quick free kick in stoppage time, and he put in a nice cross for Bowen, who'd made a good run to the far post, who just had to stoop and head it into the back of the net. But for some bizarre reason, he went to chest it, and it went over the bar. And that was it. That was full time. What a game we'd witnessed. And Leeds, in my opinion, deserved the victory. West Ham contributed themselves, but they didn't quite look maybe at their best. And defensively, they looked shaky. And if West Ham really do have aspirations of making fourth this season, which would be an amazing achievement, they're going to have to tighten up defensively because they are conceding far too many goals this season. However, whenever there's a West Ham game, it tends to be entertaining. And this one was no different. What a game. 3-2 Leeds. This also pushed Leeds further clear of the relegation zone. There were also 3 midweek Premier League games being played, with the first one on Tuesday, the 18th of January, between Brighton and Chelsea at the Amex Stadium in Brighton. Brighton lined up with a 5-3-2 formation, with Sanchez in goal, 3 centre-backs of Veltman, Byrne and Webster, wing-backs of Cucurella and Lamptey, 3 central midfielders of Pascal Gros, Alzate and Madère playing slightly higher up, and then 2 up front of McAllister and Danny Welbeck, although McAllister was playing just off Danny Welbeck. Chelsea lined up with a 4-2-3-1 formation, Kepa in goal, Azpilicueta and Alonso as the fullbacks, Rudiger and Thiago Silva as the centre-backs, N'Golo Kante and Jorginho as the defensive midfielders, with the 2 wingers being Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi, Mount playing in the central attacking midfield position, and Lukaku playing as the striker. Brighton started the game playing well and had a half chance early in the first half when Madère had a shot wide of the far post after Welbeck's neat flick set him up. Chelsea had a half chance for themselves when Azpilicueta fired a shot from right back straight at Sanchez, who tipped it over comfortably. However, Lukaku in this move had made a good run into the channel and had managed to get in behind, and he was showing that he was looking sharp at this point. In the 28th minute, Hakim Ziyech had a speculative shot from 25 yards out with lots of power, and Sanchez should have had a strong enough hand to save it. However, it squirmed under him and he couldn't keep it out. 1-0 for Chelsea. This was an important goal for Chelsea, and they really needed to react well from having lost at the weekend to Manchester City. However, this goal was maybe slightly against the run of play as Brighton had started well. Into the second half, Brighton continued to push for an equaliser, playing some good football, and Cucurella, who'd had a good game, was bombing on from left back, and he put in a nice pull-back cross to McAllister, who had a shot, and it was deflected and it almost squirmed into the corner. However, Kepa managed to tip it round the post. From the resulting corner, McAllister spotted the ball up, whipped it in, and nobody was marking Webster up, and he powered his header into the back of the net. 1-1. Brilliant header by him, and Brighton were right back in the game. No more than they deserved. Brighton played some good football leading to the end of the game. However, they couldn't create anything clear-cut. However, they didn't allow Chelsea any more real chances apart from a pot shot by Kovacic, which went miles over the bar. An even game ended 1-1, and Brighton can be very happy with their work in this game and their work so far this season. However, Chelsea will be looking behind themselves, wondering if a top 4 place might even be under threat. On the Wednesday, the 20th of January, Brentford were playing Man United, and Brentford lined up with Lossell in goal, back 5 again, with Pinnock, Janssen and Sorensen as the centre-halves, Canos at left wing-back, Roslaw at right wing-back, 3 central midfielders of Janelt, Jensen and Norgard. The 2 strikers were Ivan Toney and Mbeumo. Man United lined up with De Gea in goal, a back 4 of Telles, Varane, Lindelof and Dalot, and Tomine and Fred as the defensive midfielders. 2 wingers of Mason Greenwood and Elanga, Bruno Fernandes as the central attacking midfielder, and Cristiano Ronaldo as the striker. Brentford started the game better than Man United and created numerous chances in the first half. Mbeumo ran at United's defence and released Norgard, who passed to Jensen, whose shot inside the penalty area from 10 yards out was saved by De Gea, but this was a good chance to make it 1-0. Brentford continued to push forward, and Norgard hit a shot over after a second phase from a corner, and it was another good chance. A swift counter-attack in the first half from Mbeumo, passing to Janelt, who gave it to Ivan Toney, who fed Jensen, who ran into the box, who should have scored, but his shot was saved by De Gea's feet. This was a great chance. And going into half-time, Brentford really should have been 2-0 up. Into the second half, against the run of play, Manchester United took the lead, and Fred put the ball into the box for Elanga, who teed himself up with his touch and headed it into the goal. It was a good goal by him, and he has shown in the last couple of games to be a good young player. And this was so 1-0 to United after 55 minutes against the run of play. As the second half wore on, the game had switched quite dramatically, and United were the team playing slightly better in the second half. And Brentford's centre-halves stepped up to try and win the ball, and Ronaldo chested it off to Bruno Fernandes, who then sprinted in behind the defence and was one-on-one with the goalkeeper from a tight angle, but he decided to pull it back to Greenwood, who'd made a good run, and he tapped it in for 2-0. United were in a great position, 2-0 United. Brentford were wondering how on earth they were now 2-0 down, but I guess that's what happens if you don't take your chances. Man United were playing better this half and got a third goal after Fernandes played a ball to Rashford after good work from McTominay driving through the midfield, and Rashford, as he received the ball, placed it with power into the near corner, and it went into the back of the net for 3-0. United had got the 3 points, and they will be relieved that they were getting the 3 points, having not played well at all in the first half. Brentford didn't give up, however, and they did get a late consolation goal. Ivan Toney with the goal after a long throw-in was poorly defended by United, and Ivan Toney managed to bundle the ball into the back of the net. So, full time, 3-1 to United. Good win for United, and I think Brentford will rue the chances they missed. However, they will be happy that they did put in a good performance. The final game I'm reviewing here is one of the most dramatic games of the game week, with Leicester hosting Tottenham. Leicester lined up with a 5-3-2 formation, with Schmeichel in goal, Vestergaard, Soyuncu and Chowdhury as the centre-backs, Thomas at left wing-back, Albrighton at right wing-back, 3 central midfielders of Dewsbury Hall, Tielemans and Maddison, with Patson Daka and Ademola Lookman up front. Tottenham lined up with 5 at the back as well, with Emerson Royal and Reguilon as the wing-backs, Davis, Tanganga and Sanchez as the centre-halves, Højbjerg, Skip and Winks in the midfield, and Kane and Moura up front. Spurs started the game well, and Kane turned in the box onto his left foot and had a good shot that was cleared off the line by Thomas. It should have really been 1-0 for Tottenham. However, what a clearance. Leicester took the lead, however, in the first half, completely against the run of play. In the 24th minute, from Patson Daka, Dewsbury Hall had played a nice pass to Lookman, whose poor touch had found its way to Daka, who played it to Lookman, who was then tackled. However, the ball broke to Daka, and he scored from a tight angle past Hugo Lloris. 1-0 for Leicester. Tottenham continued to not let this knock their confidence and were playing good football in the first half. And Kane was having a good game and laid the ball off to Skip, who played a curling ball in behind to Moura. However, Schmeichel blocked it with his body. However, the ball then fell to Højbjerg, who had a shot, and there was, as the keeper was out of his goal, he just had to put it in. However, Albrighton had got back on the line and cleared the ball off the line. Otherwise, it would have been 1-0. What a clearance. Spurs continued to play well, and Højbjerg played a ball in behind the disjointed back three of Leicester, And Kane cut inside and curled a shot with his weaker left foot into the corner, kissing the post for 1-0. What a finish by Kane. He was definitely back in form. 1-0. Into the second half, Harvey Barnes had come on for Leicester and he slipped Maddison in to score a deflected strike in the box. It was a nice passing move between the two and Leicester were ahead yet again. In the 79th minute, Steven Bergwijn came on and this was an absolute masterstroke by Conte. As the game was about to end, in the 95th minute, Højbjerg played another lovely ball forward to substitute Doherty, who had made a run from right wing back. And he chested the ball, and Soyuncu's clearance fell straight into the path of Bergwijn, who fired the ball into the back of the net. 2-2, they'd grabbed a point surely. What an ending to the game. The away end was absolutely mental, and Tottenham were absolutely buzzing, having nicked a point. Although, I say nicked, they did actually play really well this game and probably deserved at least a point. However, this wasn't the end of it. Oh no. Last kick of the game, 97th minute, and Tielemans was desperate to try and force a winner for Leicester. He played a poor ball, which was intercepted by Højbjerg, and he played a ball into Kane, who had moved from the number 9 position to a number 10 position into midfield, picked up the ball with his back to goal, got his head up and played an absolutely beautiful curling ball in behind, splitting the Leicester defence, which were just all over the place throughout the game. And the ball came to Bergwijn, who rounded the keeper, Schmeichel, who'd come rushing out, and he then took his shot back across the goal into the far corner. Soyuncu desperately running back to try and clear it off the line, but couldn't. It hit the post and went over the line as Soyuncu punched the ball in anger into the back of the net as it had already crossed the line. And Bergwijn had run off to the away fans, who are going absolutely crazy, and there were limbs everywhere. What an ending to a game. This was absolutely incredible. This was giving me reminders of when Tottenham did the exact same sort of similar thing in the Champions League semi-final when Moura got his hat-trick, if people recall. But this was absolutely crazy, and what an ending to the game. Tottenham fans are absolutely ecstatic at the end of the game, as you can tell, and they're going to be thinking that if they can win their games in hand, they have a real chance of getting top 4 this season. But there we have it. That's the end of Game Week 22. And catch me for the next episode, where I'll be previewing the weekend's Premier League football with predictions. You've been listening to Football Follow Through.